Welcome to another edition of Living Legacies. I'm Tom Marl, your host. Today we have as our guest Norton Hathaway, a longtime resident of Oceanside and businessman in the community service leader. Norton, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you agreed to sit down. You've been a fixture around Oceanside for more than half a century.
Yeah, I like to consider myself an active fixture.
You told me you're going to celebrate your 82nd birthday here.
Right.
Upcoming.
Yes, very soon.
Yeah, you were born in 82.
Should I tell them where to send the presents?
you were born in Denver, right?
Yes.
Denver, Colorado. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your parents were in the lumber business.
Right.
And now, Norton, this isn't one of those yes and no shows. You could expand on things.
Well, we moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, when I was about 5 years old, and my father was involved in a large lumber chain there, and they decided to send him to California and start a business out here. The first place was in Monrovia. And I understand in about a year and a half, they got the return on their investment.
Well, that's
so it was profitable.
Monrovia is where you went to high school in that area?
Yes, I went through from grammar school right up through high school.
Now, the organization that your dad was a part of at that time, they bought the Oceanside Lumber Company in, what, 1932?
Right.
And so they actually owned Oceanside Lumber long before your family moved to the area.
Yes. The occasion for moving down here, it happened to coincide with my going in the Army, which was in August of 1941. The partnership decided to divide up the lumber companies, and they put a high price on the one in Monrovia because it was the most profitable. But my father chose Oceanside and Temecula, and because, one thing that impressed me was that the profitable lumber company in Monrovia went out of business about 3 years after my dad moved down here.
So that was a good decision on his part.
I think he had something to do with his success.
Oh, okay.
I give him credit.
Now, you... The picture that we have, if we haven't already shown it, that old picture of the lumberyard. What year was that? You remember what year?
I don't know. It was probably late 1919 or something like that. Now,
where was the lumberyard located?
It was on Cleveland Street. It's just off the corner of Pierview Way, which was 3rd Street at that time. And later on, he moved it to 3rd Street. Well, now it was known as Pier Avenue, and then it was changed to 3rd Street, and then back to Pierview Way.
Now you mentioned going into the service. I think we've got a picture of you in uniform and in all your splendor back in. Was that taken about 1941, 1942?
Yes, it was in 1941 after I finished basic training in Camp Grande, Illinois. It was medical basic.
No, but were you in the Army Air Corps?
Yes, I qualified for the Army Specialized Training Program, and they sent me to 2 quarters up at Stanford University. My father's ambition was to see me get an MBA at Stanford. And he told me before I got into the service, when I was in high school, I'm going to have to improve my grades, which I did. And I took the test, and I was accepted at Stanford. But the Army had first dibs.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about what you did in the Army, because from what I know of it, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, after I completed the Army Specialized Training Program at Stanford, it was on personnel psychology, and then I was sent to an outfit in Santa Ana that did aviation cadet tests to see if they qualified, and then also to determine who would be pilot, navigator, or bombardier. And the Western Training Command was in Santa Ana, and they had IBM equipment, so they sent me over to work at the on IBM equipment, punch cards.
I was going to say, it's a little different than IBM equipment of today, right?
Our biggest concern that we wouldn't have any jams on the cards.
These are the old data processing punch cards?
Right.
Where was the Army base in Santa Ana?
Well, I don't know how to describe it. I haven't been there very many times since then.
Well,
but I was transferred down to Texas, San Antonio.
Oh, okay. Did you spend the war here in the States in that training command?
Right. I spent the largest amount of time in San Antonio. We're doing the same thing. They just sent us in a different location.
Lackland Air Force Base? Or?
Well, we were at the Cadet Center, but I worked at Kelly Field because that's where they had their IBM equipment. We borrowed their equipment, and then we decided to get our own. So the captain said that we should get maybe about 6 men to load up the tabulator, which is the main part of the operation. I said, well, it's 2,000 pounds. He says, well, that's a ton. So I said, you're going to take more than 6 men to load it up. So now look at the computers today. They're so much faster and have more capacity.
I was going to say that my little laptop that weighs 6 pounds probably has far more power in it.
Much more.
Yeah, it's amazing what the technology has done now. After the war, you did manage to get into Stanford.
Yes, I made it Stanford. I was I had a buddy up there that was about 30 years old, and I wasn't too far behind, and it just seemed like we were getting older fast. Faster we were getting smart.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I better get into some subjects like bookkeeping and that sort of thing, and business law, because I was just taking liberal arts up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, you had a job waiting for you with your dad in the lumber business.
Yes.
Now, but before you came to Oceanside, you spent a little time up in Northern California, and
yes, I worked in a Douglas fir sawmill in Arcata, California, and then I worked in a redwood mill, and then later on I worked for the Santa Barbara Mill and Lumber Company. That was regular retail.
So you actually worked in every aspect of lumber.
Right. My dad didn't want me to come down and help until I knew something.
Now, you and your dad were quite well known here in town. As you were telling me, there were only 2 lumber yards in Oceanside at the time.
Right.
And we're talking about the late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
And in those days, if you wanted a 2x4 or roofing nails or some roofing or cement or anything like that, you didn't have a Home Depot to go to.
No.
You had to go to one of the lumber yards.
If people call, well, our number way back was number 6 was our phone number. So
This 6?
Yeah, 6, plain 6. Then I think it was something like 711, and then the telephone company wanted to use that in their operation, so we gave that up, and then we wound up with 7 digits.
Now, if your lumber company was like most of them that I'm familiar with, when I was growing up, you delivered, didn't you? I mean,
right.
Somebody called and said, "I want a ton of sand or some,
Well, one of the old timers said that he really liked horses because when you made a delivery, you just say, "Giddy up," and they headed for the barn.
So, Now, you and I are in the same Rotary Club together, but you've been there a long time. But you had an interesting legacy with Oceanside Rotary. Your dad was in there.
Yes, my dad was a past president, and I'm a past president, which we're the only father-son that have
Ever
been
helped.
President of Oceanside Rotary.
And he brought you into the club.
Yes, he proposed me after he felt I was ready.
Yeah. How old were you when you went into Rotary?
Gee, this is a test I don't think I can pass.
Okay. All right. Well,
I can remember it was about 1955, I think.
Well, about that time, there were a lot of guys like yourself who were back from the war, and I just interviewed Bob Pickerel, and we were talking about the gang of fellows that got things done, and the JCs and a few others, and you were part of that group. I know one of the big projects you worked on was the harbor.
Oh yes. I hardly landed in Oceanside, and John Steiger put me to work.
He's good at that.
I haven't gotten over it.
Yeah,
I'm still involved with John.
Can't get away.
Yeah, we did promote the harbor, and it came into being. It was quite an endeavor, and we had a lot of cooperation on it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a lot of people felt that why go into debt to build a harbor for a bunch of wealthy people from out of town that were going to park their yachts here. But it's really been an asset to Oceanside. The next thing we did, we tried to improve the airport here in Oceanside, but it didn't have the potential. So we found a place in North County, which happened to be in Carlsbad. We promoted that. We asked them not to name it the Carlsbad Airport since we had promoted it and brought it into being. So they call it Palomar Airport, which is an asset to the North County.
Well, of course it is, and of course there's always been this rivalry between Oceanside and Carlsbad, and that. Well,
we established the Center City Golf Course, the Goat Hill, and so we had a deal with the Junior Chamber had a deal with the city that we could operate it for 30 years, but at the end and then we had to make certain dollar value of improvements, but we turned it over to a private operator before the 30 years was up.
Now, what are your thoughts today with what's happening with the airport? Do you think there's any chance for it to continue, or that? I know you had originally designed it to bring corporation business into town.
Yeah, that was the main idea.
And Deutsch used it for quite some time.
Yes, Deutsch was very much working for it. I mean, they were. Without them, it probably wouldn't have happened.
That was the concept, but it just never really panned out. Was it just not long enough runway, or?
Yes, and it's in a valley, which isn't too good. The location in Carlsbad is on a plateau and facing into the ocean, so taking off and landing, it's pretty ideal. Going into the wind.
And that airport brought the business in.
Right, it sure did.
and you helped them do that, right?
Right.
Well, now, what year did you? I know you were telling me that you ran the lumber company right up until the time that you had the fire.
Right.
That's something you don't want to have around a lumber company, is it?
We had this unusual situation, if you call it that. My father sold the lumber company to me in '59, and after a few years later, I remember one day he said, "Norton, am I doing any good?" And I said, "We couldn't do it without you." So we had a very good relationship.
Now, you and I were talking the other day. You said that when you had the fire, that was it a coffee pot that
yes,
that they determined caused the fire?
Yeah, one thing I felt after that, they had a fire down at our competitor's St. Malo Lumber Company, and there was a loss of life, and nobody was injured in this fire, so I felt good about that.
Oh, yeah. What year was this?
That was,
I'm giving you another one of those tests.
yeah. That was in '81.
Yeah, yeah. Now, did you kind of retire then, or what did you?
I retired reluctantly, over a period of time. It was about 4 years later I retired. We built a temporary office over the weekend. The fire was on a Saturday, and over the weekend we got a building halfway built, and then we brought in a phone line and all that.
So you did continue then?
Oh yeah, we don't give up easily. Maybe a little stupid, but we don't give up.
Now, you've been involved with the Republican Party for a number of years. And
yes, about 50. I think it's been about 50 some years. Well, I think it was 47 years ago. I was one of a handful of people that founded the Republican Club of Oceanside, and I'm the lone survivor, so
is that right?
I can claim to be the founder.
Okay, well, there's nobody going to argue with you then.
Yeah, I don't get any arguments.
Well, in fact, I know John Steiger lets you keep a little office down there, and John proudly calls that the Republican headquarters, and I would imagine that's because you're there and you even man the phone there.
I'm one of John's trainees. Oceanside Uber alles or whatever.
Well, now you were married back in '62 to
Right.
Inez Sanders, and you had a daughter.
Yes, Edith Ann. She goes by Ann Hathaway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of her.
Any grandchildren?
No grandchildren. My daughter came in third in the state amateur golf championship up in Pebble Beach, and that was when she was 17 years old, and she became a professional golfer for a short time. But she has serious arthritis, so she's not able to play anymore.
Now we've got a picture of you. I don't know whether we've shown it yet or not, but we've got a picture of you sitting at your desk in the Steiger building at the Republican headquarters. You're also a deacon at the Twin Inns Christian Church?
Well, I was a deacon, then I was a director, and I've been an elder for quite a few years, from time to time. And since I joined the church, I think my first position was after I'd been a member for about a year. I became a deacon, but I've been very active over the years.
Mm-hmm. Now you've been in Rotary Club for all these many years,
right?
And probably one of the biggest supporters of the club and one of the most loyal members. I mean, you're there almost every week.
Yes, I have no problem with attendance. I love to go to Rotary, and I enjoy the meetings and the fellowship and the accomplishments of Rotary.
So what are some of the big projects that you've worked on for Rotary over the years?
One I remember very well, the Rotary Club established Rotary Park, it's a skate park now. Ben Westlow asked me if I would help out, and it came on my wedding anniversary, and I said, I don't think so. And he said, well, we can get in there early and then out early. So we set it up to start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we got through about 8 o'clock at night. It was in August, and so they're long days. And
the wife probably didn't appreciate that.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, I know that you've been involved with, like I said, you've been involved with Rotary and been involved in many projects over the years. And one of the big delights that I have going to Rotary is every once in a while they'll let you get up and be the president for the day, and it's probably one of the hilarious times of the year, because you do have a great sense of humor, and
well,
it's kind of off the cuff, and you come up with stuff that a lot of people aren't expecting.
I like to surprise them.
Well,
Put
listen,
them off balance.
You're going to be surprised, Norton, but our time is up. You said that you didn't think you could remember 20 or 25 minutes worth of work, so we appreciate you coming here and sharing your life with us. You've got a rich one, and we've had a lot of fun.
It's been a fun life, and it's still going on.
Oh yeah, well, like I say, you got another birthday coming up here. You'll
right.
be 82.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, Norton. We've been talking with Norton Hathaway, a longtime businessman here in Oceanside, fellow Rotarian, and we thank you for joining us here on KOCT Living Legacies. I'm Tom Morrow. This program is made possible through the generous underwriting grants of Hatter, Williams & Purdy Insurance Services of Oceanside, providing North County with complete insurance needs for more than half a century. The TriQuest Corporation, providing quality office and manufacturing space in Oceanside. And the North County Times, serving all of North County with complete local daily news coverage and internet services.